What is going on? I know with the most KDK Capri on a design inside Oxford, recently did a study that proved happy workers are 13% more productive, right? Let me pull up this real quick for y'all. So, in those studies, 2 seconds. Know what y'all thinking? Like, damn, okay, you should have had it ready. Okay. So, in those studies, researchers found that happy workers don't, necessarily work more hours than, discontented or unhappy colleagues, right? They're more, they're simply more productive within their time of being at work, right? So that's going, start to break the ice for today, right? We're going to be talking about how happiness, has a lot to do with your success, especially when we're talking about business, right? So, in other recent studies, I believe her name was Carissa Ranger, right? She's the founder of the CEO of Silver Lining, right? They researched with the help of the Wells Fargo Foundation that the SMB owners are concerned about, mental health, right? Around 46% feel stress and mental health. Um, uh, excuse me, 46% feel that stress and mental health are affecting the success of their businesses, right? And more importantly, although around 70% of those respondents, or aka the people that took the what is it? Brain fart, excuse me, 70% of the respondents, aka the people who took the survey, report not minding working those long hours, right? But they do feel that their mental health is impacting the people that they care about, right? And just a side note, right? It's reported that 50% say stress and mental health issues are affecting the success of their business, right? So that brings me into what we're going to talk about today, right? We're going to be talking about, mindset, right? This whole month is going to be focused on mental health, physical health, right? I'm going to give you a lot of ways to, just essentially put yourself in position, right, to use your mindset as leverage, right, to use your attitude, your happiness as leverage in your business, right? So today I'm going to give you 12 ways to use your mindset to create wealth, right? And I say this because as entrepreneurs we don't necessarily have enough time to work on ourselves, right? We're overworked, overwhelmed, some cases underpaid, right? And we have that burden of success or failure on our shoulders as the business owner or the boss of the business. So it becomes hard to learn how to unwind and decompress, to, essentially just reset and resolve that inner tension, especially if you are someone who works at home, right? It can be very hard to, separate personal and business, right? Especially when, you have a room, say in your next room you have your office, right, and you do business, right, and then directly in the next room that's your kid's bedroom, or that's the living room, or the dining room, right? So it becomes hard to keep those things balanced, right? So when we're talking about, uh keeping that balance between your mental health and your personal goals, right, we have to figure out, certain ways to trigger, just make our body work for ourselves, right? I want you guys to comment if, if you had more time, you would do more things, right? Or if you had more energy, you would do more things, right? You would get more things done, you would be more productive, right? Just let me know how that works for you, right? So like I said, this episode, I'm gonna give you 12 ways to use your mindset to create wealth. So let me ask you a question. Did you know that your brain controls your emotions? Right? Today we're going to be getting into the science of things, right? We're going to be talking, and this is going to be essentially the whole subject matter for this month, right? It's all going to be about functions. We're going to be talking about how your brain works. We're going to be talking about how your body works, right? And how to essentially make your body work for you, right? Not working for your body. And I'll break that down a little bit what that means here soon, right? But did you know that your brain controls your emotions, right? Do you know what part of your brain controls your emotions, right? So when we're talking about, what brain functions you have, right? There's a bunch of different systems that, the brain uses to, think, or whatever the brain does. I'm not a complete expert, right? So when we talk about the brain, right, we want to talk about, the limbic system, right? The limbic system is a big one. I did a lot of research before this episode, right? Because I just wanted to give you guys a sense of how the brain works, what parts of the brain, trigger happiness, what parts of the brain trigger anger, right? So today I want to talk about the limbic system. The limbic system plays a crucial part in our behavioral and emotional responses. Right. So we have a few different parts of the brain of the limbic system, right? We have the thalamus, I believe that's how you say it, and the um, hippocampus, I believe, and the amygdala. These are the amygdala and the hypothalamus are something that I definitely was familiar with. If you've ever went a little bit farther, I don't know about y'all, but I dropped out when I was in ninth grade, so I probably never had time to, just actually dive into the limbic system. But just for the purposes of this episode, right, we want to talk about the hypothalamus and the amygdala, right? So just to break it down, right, as like I said, the limbic system plays a crucial part in our behavioral and emotional responses, right? So as feelings of, just for this episode, we're going to be talking about happiness, right? So as feelings of love and attraction develop, the hypothalamus, and just to backtrack, right, they're going to form in the amygdala, right? So when they form, they're going to go to as they develop, right, the hypothalamus is going to trigger the release of those happiness chemicals and hormones, right? So this is where we get things like dopamine, oxytocin, right? Dopamine is associated with the brain's reward system. Essentially, I bring that up to say we want, the limbic system essentially is going to play a part in making love feel good, right? Dopamine or oxytocin, right? Those are both, just those are both going to be happy chemicals, right? Or hormones, right? So these are associated with the brain's reward system, especially dopamine, right? So dopamine is going to be associated with the body in a whole, as the body's reward system in a whole, right? So essentially this is going to make love feel like a happy feeling, right? So when we talk about how to trigger, today we're going to be talking about how to trigger this hypothalamus, right? How to release those happy chemicals and what that can do for you in your business, right? Remember that first quote, that first, just I think it was a sermon from some, I forgot what it was, right? But I did a lot of research, right? A lot of scattered research for this, right? But like I said in the first few seconds of the episode, right? There was a study that showed that happy workers are 13% more productive, right? So this is why I bring up the hypothalamus. This is why I bring up, triggering happy chemicals or hormones, right? Because it does play a part in how productive you are and how you feel when you go into business, right? So I want you guys to ask yourself another question. What can happiness do for your business, right? Or your productivity for your employees, right? What can happiness do, right? Happy boss, happy life, if you've ever heard it, right? And what does that look like? How can you add this into your workspace or your workforce, right? And I want to break this down a little bit more, right? Because we live in a workforce based on what? It's based on boss and employee, right? Manager, shift leader, crew members, boss, essentially, right? And if you've never heard the term happy boss, happy business, right? Meaning, when you have a good boss, you have a good business, essentially, right? So everything is leader oriented, meaning, we usually don't have a business without a boss or a manager or some type of leader, right? Because that's going to be due to structure and productivity, right? You always want to have some type of structure in your business, right? So when you have a structured business, meaning, you have a business that necessarily qualifies as being organized, right? You're going to be able to add volume and productivity, right? So when you have a strong leader, this is going to ensure your business runs a certain way, right? Got that. So let me introduce to you this little known equation. It's being used by the best. It's being used by the wealthiest. It's being used by the people who use. I won't necessarily say the smartest, but I will say it's being used by the people who know how to utilize it, right? And we're gonna start breaking down a little bit of this little known thing called mindset mechanics or money mechanics, right? Or wealth mechanics, essentially. We're going to be talking about all three of those, and I'm going to break those down in later episodes. But today we're going to be talking about mindset mechanics and money mechanics, right? And like I said, this equation is being used by the top 1%. This is what the 1% is using to essentially stay up there, right? So, and I believe that I can commit to you that this works. So I want to introduce to you the visionary wealth equation. So the visionary wealth equation is broken down by three stages, right? It has the anticipation stage, the production stage, and then the success stage, right? So I want to break it down just a little bit. It might look like a lot, it might look like a, kind of unorganized, right? And a lot of you guys may have not have done math this way. But I want to talk to you about what this, I'm gonna break this down for you real quick, right? So we got happiness plus motivation equals anticipation, right? You're gonna carry that anticipation and you're gonna add that with implementation. And implementation plus anticipation is gonna equal production, right? Now, when we multiply production and consistency, we are going to get success. This is where we're gonna talk about a little bit about success mechanics, mindset mechanics, money mechanics, visionary wealth. The visionary wealth equation is definitely something that you can use and utilize in your everyday life, right? So happiness plus motivation equals anticipation. Anticipation plus implementation equals production. And production multiplied with consistency equals success. That's where we all want to get, right? So meaning if I use my happiness to create motivation, right, I can anticipate that I will implement or I can anticipate my implementation will create productivity. Then I can multiply, meaning, I can use this to speed up my consistency. That is going to equal success. Still with me? All right. So when we use something called success mechanics, we can use our mind instead of the body to succeed, right? Some of us are tired of using our bodies to create and to create value and to earn, right? So this is going to be a way that you can start using, your mindset to leverage, right? Anything in your business, right? So there, I want to bring it back to studies, right? There's a study on how happiness affects business performance. There's a lot of studies on that. It's actually becoming a bigger market, right? To where people are studying what goes into a successful business, right? So, the study shows, it's essentially studied how happiness affects business performance, right? Studies show that bosses and employees experience happiness differently, right? With bosses, often reporting higher satisfaction with their lives and their jobs, mostly due to greater control, financial security, career advancement, certain type of things like that. However, employee happiness is crucial for productivity and overall organizational success, right? So if you have happy employees, right, your business as a whole is going to run in a certain type of way. And a positive workplace and positive work place relationships added with a supportive, happy leadership, right? Those are going to be key factors in a happy and engaged workforce, right? So I want to introduce you guys to this, the equity equation. And I'm gonna break it down a little bit, but in whole, right? The equity equation comes down to, as private equity is coming to realize, expanding profit sharing to workers at all levels of an enterprise is not just a good strategy to a more productive workforce, it's a necessity. Through employee ownership, employees build not only wealth but also ownership, which translates into a more productive company. And, several studies have also shown that businesses that are, at least 30% employee owned are more productive. They're more faster growing and they are less likely to go out of business. So when you foster that by a business owner, a good business owner, right? A happy, engaged business owner, right? And you start to give people the opportunity, right, to have some type of ownership in the business, right, you are going to create this is going to lead to increased productivity. It's going to lead to increased creativity, right, and innovation. Ultimately, it's going to boost the profitability of your business, and it's going to create stronger relationships between your customers and your employees, right? So happy boss, happy business, right? So let's go back down to success mechanics, right? We're going to go back down to the visionary wealth equation, right? So if we know that happiness plus motivation equals anticipation, and anticipation plus implementation equals production, and production multiplied with consistency, that equals success, then success is essentially measured by happiness, intention, and execution. Meaning, are you happy with yourself? Are you willing to execute with intention, right? Essentially, meaning if I am happy with myself and my abilities, right, then I can anticipate that my implementation is going to equal success, right? And then I can add that with some level of consistency, right? And that's going to speed up the process, right? It's going to get me to success faster. So are you willing to execute with some type of intention? Do you know what you're doing is working, right? Are you happy with yourself, right? And do you know that and can you essentially translate that into some type of product or some type of business, right? So you got to start thinking about those type of things. When we talk about success mechanics, right, you have to break it down into everything can be broken down to an equation that you can use in your everyday life, right? So that's where we're gonna break it down a little bit more, right? In further coming episodes, right? But I want to jump right into the 12 ways you can use your mindset to create wealth, right? I'm gonna give you four concepts. I'm gonna give you four concepts with three steps to execute, and I'm gonna show you how to execute these with intention, right? Or execute with intent. So let's talk about the first one. So, concept number one, food and happiness, right? A happy brain is a more productive brain, right? Food plays a huge part in your confidence level, right? And your emotional balance, essentially, right? And your mental clarity, right? So, like the way you feel is a direct result of what you eat. You are what you eat, right? So, your body, let me just break this down, right? And like I said, this whole month is gonna be, essentially breaking all this down, right? So, you want to fill your brain with nutrient dense foods, right? Your body is, made to break down nutrient dense food or, natural foods, not processed foods, right? So when your body uses the correct amount of energy to break down carbohydrates, proteins, right? Your body is going to feel balanced. And more importantly, you're going to feel more energetic and not overworked, right? So you want to eat and feel your brain, right? We want to feel that happiness part of our brain, right? And we only get that with certain type of foods, right? Nutrient dense foods, natural foods, right? Especially like I'll give you a perfect example, right? If I eat fruit and it's going to trigger a certain type of it's going to trigger that hypothalamus naturally, right? With natural, say it's antioxidants or say it's some type of protein, right? This is essentially going to give me that natural happiness, right? If I eat a piece of chocolate, right, that's again gonna trigger those happiness hormones, right? But it's gonna trigger in a different way, right? I'm gonna feel a different type of happy, right? So you want to fill your brain with nutrient dense foods, right? So you want to incorporate whole foods like fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, right, and healthy fats into your diet. When I was growing up, I used to hate eating fat, right? I used to think fat was disgusting, right? Now I know that healthy fats, added into your diet are essentially going to help you not only lose weight, right, but it's going to help you, utilize that correct amount of energy, right? So these foods are going to stabilize your mood and energy levels, right? They're going to help you stay focused and optimistic about your wealth building goals. So essentially, when I feel my brain, right, I'm going to feel my energy. And a lot of this is going to come down to energy, right? A lot of this is going to come down to what you're doing with your time. And when we talk about what we're doing with our time, right, it all comes down to the energy that we have. Right. So if I spend all of my energy working at my 9 to 5, right, and I come home, I might not have a lot of energy, right? Or if I spend all of my time, and I put the business on the back burner, right? And I go out to eat and I eat a steak and a baked potato and then I eat, drink a milkshake, right? And then I go out for drinks afterwards. My body is not eating nutrient dense food. I'm not fueling my body. So then my energy level is going to go from here to here. It's going to be hard for me to stay focused. It's going to be hard for me to stay awake, right? When we start learning a little bit more about this, right? We're going to be talking about detoxing. Every day your body detoxes. That's what we call sleep, right? So when you wake up, and you essentially look like, damn, I slept 8 hours. That means your body is needing 8 hours to detox, right? And essentially, when we start to break it, I'm gonna start to break it down more, right? When I first started this journey, right, and I started fasting, right, I was pushing about 300 pounds, right? I'm now down to about 230. I did all this in under 6 months, right? But these foods and these practices helped me stabilize my energy, right? So it helped me learn that, okay, now I went from sleeping 8 hours a day, right, to now to the point where I only sleep around 5 hours, right? Because my body isn't using so much energy to detox, right? So on to number two. You want to practice mindful eating, meaning you want to slow down and savor your meals, right? So mindful eating reduces stress and it's going to help you make intentional choices, which is then going to translate into better decision making in your business or your financial ventures. So when I take time to, savor my meals, enjoy my meals, right, it's going to help me. It's all about the balance, right? It's going to reduce, that stress, right? It's going to, stressful. A lot of people eat stressfully, right? A lot of people say, oh, or some people even eat when they're bored, right? My mom always used to tell me, I used to tell like, Mom, I'm bored, or I used to tell like, Mom, I'm hungry, and she used to be like, No, you're just bored, right? So mindful eating is going to reduce that, that stress eating, right? It's going to help you make intentional choices, right? And it's also going to help you stay disciplined, right? Disciplined eating is going to translate into disciplined choices, right? And intentional choices, right? So number three, you want to hydrate for mental clarity. Hydration is a big one, right? For example, when you always hear if you hear someone say you have I have a headache, right? The first thing a lot of people are going to tell them, did you drink any water today? Right? So dehydration can lead to fatigue, it can lead to brain fog, affecting your ability to think strategically, right? So hydration is a big thing. And I'm not necessarily talking about water. I'm not necessarily talking about H2O. But in further episodes, I think maybe Tuesday's episode, we're going to be talking about what, hydration does for your mental clarity. But when we talk about water and we talk about staying hydrated, right? It is essentially one of the biggest things that I want to talk about when it comes to being happy, right? So you want to make water a priority, right? And this is going to keep your mindset sharp and energized, right? This is going to keep you focused, and that is the biggest thing, right? Because I want to break things down in stages, right? We have the stage where we're talking about food and happiness. Food and happiness is going to help you balance your body, right? And when we start to balance our body, then we can start to learn the mind. Once we learn and balance the body, we can start to learn and balance the mind. Once we start to learn how to leverage the body, right? When you start to learn how to leverage your healthy eating habits and you start learning how healthy people do more productive things, right? And this can essentially translate into your business, right? Then we're going to learn how to use that in the mindset, right? So we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the episode. But let's move on to concept two. We're going to be talking about adding exercise and nature in your everyday life. Your mindset thrives when your body is active and your spirit is connected to some type of nature. This is where holistic practice is going to start coming into play. Holistic energy is the best type of energy. Right? I don't want energy from a 5 hour energy. I want energy from me taking a 30-minute run and then going to drink a smoothie in the morning. That's going to give me all the energy that I need. That's going to give me 24 hours of energy. That's not going to give me no 5 hours of energy, right? So when we talk about, when we talk about nature, right? Everyone here, we all can agree that we believe in some type of higher power, correct? Whether it's God, whether it is, whether you're a religious person, you believe in some type of God, whether you just believe in science, right? Whether you believe in the Big Bang or however, whatever they say, right? Or whether you just believe in nature as a whole and you just believe in Mother Nature, you just believe in something higher than ourselves, right? We have to believe that we have to believe that we can't do it without that higher power, right? That level of strength, that level of, understanding, right? We have to believe that there is something that is there to help us emote our life, right? And for me personally, I believe that that's nature. If we're talking about whether it's God, and God made man in nature, God made the trees and he made the leaves and he made the people that are standing on the ground, right? If you believe in that, right, or if you believe that science, whether whatever you believe, right, whatever higher power you believe, it all comes back down to nature. So we have to live with nature. Right. And nature is our best friend at the end of the day, right? So we have to believe that, getting in touch with our inner consciousness is going to help us master ourselves. You have to believe that as a whole, right? So, but that's a whole nother episode and a whole nother topic for another day. But these three steps are going to help you incorporate nature and exercise into your daily routine. And if you already have done this, this is going to show you how to leverage your personal health to create wealth because healthy people do healthy things. They move towards the growth. They're fruitful, right? Healthy people succeed faster, right? So, or step number four, right? You want to take regular walks in nature. Nature walks are the greatest. You want to spend time outdoors. That's going to help you reduce stress and it's going to help you increase creativity. right? So I want you guys to use this time to reflect on your goals or just brainstorming new ideas for wealth building, right? Taking time and taking a step back and taking just a walk in nature and looking at the trees and the sun, right? I didn't put it in the episode, right? But I also seen studies that show that when you're around trees and oxygen is going to help you, oxygen essentially is going to be another reason why I don't believe it's oxygen, something about the trees, right? Something about the green leaves in the trees, the chlorophyll, I believe it is. Those are going to help release, oxytocin and dopamine in your brain, right? So even being out in nature and looking at the trees and walking amongst chlorophyll and being in a certain type of environment, right? That is going to help you reduce stress and it's going to help you be creative, right? It's going to help you essentially take a step back and then start to brainstorm, right? So number 5, you want to incorporate movement into your day. Right, so exercise is going to release endorphins, boosting your mood and productivity, right? One thing I want to say, right? If anybody has children, and they all say, I don't know if the doctors ever told you this, right? But if anybody has children and they say, have you ever seen the babies do the bicycle, right? And that's gonna help them poop, or that's gonna help them move around more, right? So movement is gonna help you, release those endorphins, right? It's gonna help you boost your mood and your productivity. So even short bursts of activity, like a 15-minute workout, those can enhance focus and energy levels, right? So incorporating movement into your everyday life is going to essentially help you stay balanced. It's going to help you stay focused, right? It's going to help you increase your energy levels, right? And in turn, all this is going to help you stay healthy, right? And like I said before, healthy people do healthy things. They're fruitful, right? They want to grow. So, number 6, you want to create a morning routine that combines nature and movement. I believe maybe next week we're going to be talking about morning routines, right? Morning routines is a big one. That's one of the, the biggest things we're going to start talking about in success mechanics, right? Morning routines are huge. So are nightly routines, right? So we're going to be talking about that a little bit next episode, or in the episodes to come, right? So creating a morning routine that combines nature and movement essentially is going to, keep you, it's going to keep you in check, right? It's going to keep you ready, right? So starting your day off with a walk, a yoga session, or outdoor stretching, that's going to help you create some type of um is going to help you create some type of boost, right? It's going to help you boost your productivity. Essentially, because when I take time to, wake up in the morning, and especially if you're tired, right? You wake up, if you're someone who wakes up at 5 in the morning, if you're someone who wakes up 2, 3 hours before you have to get out the house, right? This is going to be perfect for you, right? Taking time to let your body wake up, right? And taking time to take care of yourself, right? And start getting your blood flowing, and you're, starting to get movement, right? That is going to help you increase focus, right? It's going to help you increase your energy, right? And it's going to essentially make you more productive, right? So incorporating some type of nature and movement in your morning routine is essential, right? This is going to prime this, like I said, this is going to prime your mind for a more productive day, right? This is going to help you tackle those challenges with a positive outlook, right? This is going to help you tackle, those everyday things that we have to deal with as business owners, right? And this is going to help you deal with that in your everyday life, right? So concept 2, this is going to be for mental resets. This is going to be that me time activity, right? So this is going to help you capitalize on your personal development, which you then can use to leverage in your business or your brand, right? So this is concept number 2, but it's number 3. Concept number 3 is implementation through discipline and accountability, right? We just talked a little bit about how to know and master the body. Now we're going to move into knowing and mastering the brain, right? So concept 3, we're going to be talking about discipline and accountability. So number 7, you want to set clear and measurable goals, right? You want to break down your wealth building objectives. Excuse me. You want to break down your wealth building objectives into actionable steps, meaning I always tell myself, like, don't make deadlines, make goals, right? So you want to create an objective or a goal, right? And you want to break it down into small steps, right? That's going to ensure that you stay focused. That's going to ensure that you don't feel overwhelmed, right? So you want to create those actionable steps. And essentially, when you create a clear plan, that's going to help you reduce the overwhelming feelings. It's going to help you stay focused, and it's going to help you stay focused on your progression, right? So that clear plan is going to help you just just set those measurable goals, right? Meaning when you set measurable goals, those are going to be essentially what is the word? They're just going to be goals that you can realistically reach, right? So when you create measurable goals, right, it's going to help you stay focused. It's going to help you create actionable steps, meaning it's going to help you create steps that you know that is going to be in furtherance of towards the goal, essentially, right? So number 8, you want to build a system of accountability, whether that's you partnering with a mentor, a coach, or an accountability group. This is going to help you stay on track. Accountability is the biggest is the step before consistency, right? When you stay accountable, right, you can then stay consistent, right? Because every day we have to, I don't know about you guys, but every single day I have to remind myself, get up and do it, get up and do it, get up and do it, right? So you just want to find a way to stay accountable, right? Whether that's your community, whether that's your mentor, whether that's your basketball coach, whether that's your personal trainer, right? Find a way to find a system, right? There's so many systems. I might do an episode on systems of accountability, right? But when you find that system of accountability, right, it's going to essentially help you implement, right? So regular check-ins are going to ensure consistent and motivated, it's going to help that you ensure that you stay consistent and motivated to achieve your goals, right? I once heard from one of my mentors that you should never go 72 hours without speaking to your mentor, right? Because you want to stay accountable, right? 3 days, it can equal a lot of work, right? 72 hours can equal a lot of work, right? So, number 9, you want to develop a discipline first mindset, meaning you want to treat discipline as a non negotiable habit rather than relying on pure motivation, right? So, when you develop this discipline first mindset, number 1 is going to help you stay consistent, right? It's going to help you keep your eye on the ball and focus. But when you create a discipline first mindset, right? Let me give you an example. Whenever we talk about going to work, right? Or we talk about, just staying, providing essentially, right? We cannot say, I don't want to go to work today because I don't want to go to work today. You got bills, right? We all got bills, right? We grown, we got bills. So we cannot essentially say, I don't want to go to work today because I don't want to go to work today. We cannot say, I don't want to go to work today because that kid that I don't like works today. We cannot go to work today. We cannot say, I don't want to go to work today because I'm sick, or even the days that we are sick, or we want to fake sick, right? But because we have a discipline first mindset, right? Bills come first, meaning this is a non-negotiable habit rather than just relying on, oh, if I want to go to work today, that's why I'm going to go to work today, essentially. So you want to develop that discipline first mindset. And once you do this, right, it's going to ensure that those daily actions are going to be get done, right? So consistency in small daily actions is going to compound over time, which is going to lead to significant financial success, right? So when you do things in small increments, right, and you break things down into those actionable steps, it's going to compound over time, right? So that means it's essentially going to multiply, right? It's essentially going to get bigger over time, right? And we're going to move on to the last concept. Concept number 4, mastering consistency, right? Mastering consistency for long-term wealth creation, is essentially the goal, right? You want to master being able to do something over and over and over again, right? So consistency is the foundation of success, right? It's not about perfection, essentially. It's about showing up every day to build those habits that lead to that wealth creation or wealth building, or, that fulfilled mindset, right? That goes back to, are you willing to execute with intent, right? So step number 10, you want to design a routine that aligns with your goals. So, identifying key actions that directly impact your financial growth, such as, putting time away for learning, networking, and strategizing, those are necessities, right? You want to put say I want to become a public speaker, right? I cannot not put time away for figuring out what speaking events I need to go to, figuring out how to get rid of the ahs and the uhs when I'm speaking publicly, right? Figuring out how to get rid of stage fright, right? Figuring out how to meet people who actually want to learn from me. I cannot, I cannot afford to not create or design a routine that aligns with that goal, right? If I want to get to that certain place, right, I have to design a routine, right? So Number 11, or excuse me, you want to create that structure daily or routine, or even that monthly routine, right? And that comes down to, is it aligning with your goals, right? So certain things I'm going to have to work on every single day. Certain things I'm going to have to break down. Like, I'll give you a perfect example, right? For the podcast, I was at a point where I was shooting live videos every week, right? So I was sitting down once a week, right? And creating the episode, posting it that day. Now I'm at the point where I can master my consistency, and I am going to, especially once we, because probably about next week, maybe 2 weeks, we're just waiting on the cameras, right? We are going to be upgrading into a more professional setting, right? So I can get to the point where I can consistently go in one day a week and record all of my content for the month, right? So daily, monthly, weekly routines, right? Those are gonna, when you design that routine around those actions, right? Those are gonna eliminate the decision fatigue, right? And it's gonna build momentum, right? So number 11, you want to utilize systems and tools for accountability. So implementation is the biggest thing, right? Implementation, or implement systems like habit trackers, productivity apps, or financial dashboards to keep to keep your efforts organized and trackable. Those are going to be the systems that you want to utilize, right? You want to utilize your accountability community. You want to utilize your mentor, right? You want to utilize, like me personally, I have an app that counts my steps in the day, right? So I know that I'm essentially burning some type of calories in the day, right? Sometimes it'll send me goals like, hey, you multiply your step goal by 2 times today, right? So you want to implement those systems, right? And that's gonna, once I seen that I say I did go that 2 times farther than I did yesterday, right? That's gonna help me not only track my progress, right? But it's gonna essentially help me figure out where I am so I can know where to go, right? So you got to utilize these systems, right? One thing I want to say before I move on, when we talk about implement systems like those habit trackers, those productivity apps, or financial dashboards, right? I want to introduce something to everybody. Get a whiteboard. 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 When you write, studies show that when you write things down, you're essentially at least 50 times more likely to implement them, right? So get you a whiteboard, right? Write things down, look at it every single day, or put it to somewhere where like me personally, I was a master of, what's the word? I was a master of not doing things that I was supposed to do. I was a master of not implementing things. So I knew that I closed my door before I went to bed every day, right? So you know what I did? I knew I had to look at that door to open it, right? So I put a whiteboard right on the back side of my door, right? So when I opened the door every day before I came out of my room, I would have to look at that and I would have to read it, and it would remind me to stay accountable, right? So consistency thrives on clarity. And these systems are going to help you stay focused on the big picture without feeling overwhelmed, right? So consistency isn't necessarily consistent, but once you start doing it, it becomes a habit, right? So, number 12, this is the last one, y'all. I want you guys to embrace the power of incremental progress, right? So, when you break down those larger financial or entrepreneurial goals into bite sized, manageable, actionable steps or tasks, right? You can then create a system of incremental progress, right? When you have incremental progress and you start to understand, okay, these are the little steps that I'm taking. Like, I'll give you a perfect example, right? When you're starting a business or you're going to business, the big goal, right, is to start the business. But there's at least 50 other things, small things that you got to get your business address, you got to get your business phone number, you got to get your email, you got to get your bank account, right? You got to get funding, most importantly, right? So you have to get your logo, you have to get your website. There's so many small things that you want to break down, right? So, when we break down those larger goals into bite-sized manageable tasks, right, we can embrace incremental progress, right? So understanding that those small, consistent steps compound over time, right, those are going to build your confidence in your results. For example, like saving $10 a day may not feel significant, but over a year it becomes a meaningful contribution to your wealth, right? So start thinking about what the little things do over time and how that can compound over time, right? So that is the 12 steps that you are going to be able to use to essentially leverage your mindset to create wealth, right? So I want you guys to think of this, right? Mindset mechanics are essentially your way to get to that mindset, right? When you break down how to shift the mindset or how to create a mindset, right? It all comes down to something we call consistency, right? So I'm gonna give you a few concepts, right, about the mindset mechanics of consistency, right? So number one, you want to reframe setbacks, right? So view challenges as temporary and a part of the process rather than reasons to quit. This mindset is going to keep you resilient and consistent, meaning if I get knocked down 10 times, I get up 11, right? So once I master that level of consistency and I master that level of, I know everybody's probably heard this before. We don't take L's as losses, we take L's as lessons, right? So when you use that mindset, right, and you multiply that with that consistency, you can stay resilient and consistent, right? So you want to reward the process, not just the outcome. Celebrate the act of you showing up even on the tough days. This is what is going to build your character, right? This is what is going to build your resilience. This is going to reinforce the habit of you staying consistent over time, right? Stay rooted in your why. This is huge, right? Like I said, when I talked about that whiteboard, right? This helped me stay rooted in my why. This helped me say, okay, these are my goals. Every single day that I walk out of the house or I walk out of my room to get ready to go walk out of the house, I am regularly reminding myself of my why, and it's gonna help me stay rooted, right? Which is then gonna help me grow. Right? So regularly remind yourself of your ultimate purpose, whether it's financial freedom, whether it's quitting your job, creating generational wealth, right? Sending your kids to the best college, retiring your parents or your spouse, your loved ones, right? This a strong why is going to fuel consistent action, right? So that has to fuel, your consistency. Your why has to fuel your consistency. Like I get like just like when we went back to talking about how, if you don't pay your bills right, that I mean how paying your bills right is a non-negotiable, or going to work is a non-negotiable because you want to have to pay your bill. You want to pay your bills, right? You want to have a place to sleep at night. So that strong why is going to confuse that fuels why you wake up every day, right? The need to have a house or something over your head, or having the nice clothes, or being able to, take care of your family. That is your fuel of why you stay consistent. That's why you go to work every day, right? So it becomes a non-negotiable, right? So when we talk about the stages, right? We just I gave you the four concepts, right? Number one was food and happiness, right? How to, we talked about how to start mastering your brain, right? How to start leveraging your brain and leveraging, your happiness and your, just your mindset in when it comes to wealth building, right? We talked about what else? We talked about, oh, concept number two. We talked about adding exercise and nature in your everyday life, right? We talked about concept number three, implementation through discipline and accountability. And uh, what was it? Four concepts. I'm tripping. Another brain fart, right? And the last concept, we talked about mastering consistency, right? So all four of these concepts are going to tie in with that visionary wealth equation. Concept one, food and happiness, is going to tie in with that anticipation stage, right? Because once we start to learn our body, we can anticipate that, once we, let me ask you a question, right? When you first start at a job, right, essentially the first day you start, you're going to get paid, right? Especially if you get paid bi-weekly, right? So if I get paid every 2 weeks, right, and I start on the beginning of the pay period, I can anticipate that I'm going to get a check, right? Because I know that I'm going to work, right? So concept one ties into that anticipation stage, right? Concept number two and three, adding food and exercise into your daily routine, right? Or your routine period. And number three, implementation through accountability and discipline. That ties into that production stage. This is going to help you master production, being productive, and having just mastering productivity, right? So that ties into the production stage. And concept number four is going to give you that framework of how to create that sustainable system, right? So when we start talking about concept number four, mastering consistency, right, that is going to give you that framework of how you can commit to something, right? So how, and this all ties into success, right? This is going to take you to that success stage. So I can commit to everyone who's watching this that this is what works, right? And I hope I broke that down in a way where everybody can understand it. But if you aren't utilizing your mindset, or you aren't utilizing your happiness and your attitude in, your everyday life, and using that to then leverage that to create a happy business, this could be the reason why you're not reaching your full potential, why you're not pushing yourself enough. And arguably, and most importantly, the reason why you're not wealthy enough, right? So this is how you can use your mindset to then create wealth. So I want you guys to add it up. We talked a lot today. We talked about mindset mechanics. We talked about success mechanics. We talked about a little bit about money mechanics, right? But for the most part, we did a lot of math today. So I want you guys to add it up. I want you guys to start thinking about the visionary wealth equation, right? And start thinking about how you can utilize that in your everyday life. Because this is so important, right? It's so important when it comes to becoming a business owner, right? You want to have some type of equation, right? It's never coming. That people don't just fall out of the sky and become a millionaire, right? It takes time. It has to compound over time, because your consistency has to compound over time to create success, right? So I want you guys to, just give me some feedback, right? I hope you guys took some notes today, because this was a big one, right? So I want you guys to I want you guys to comment. Let me know how you feeling about these episodes, right? If you keep investing into me, I'm gonna keep investing into you, right? Subscribe. Like I said, the more subscribers we can get, the more value I can bring, right? Because the more I'm teaching on a bigger level, right? So I want you guys to comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. I have two Discord. I'm gonna leave everything below, just so you guys know. But I have two Discord communities that I would love for you to come join. Number one, we have the Visionary Wealth mindset, the Visionary Mindset group, right? This group is gonna be where I'm gonna be teaching about mindset, right? You're gonna get access to a lot of my exclusive products, right? This is a step before, the step under my exclusive Discord community. So you're going to get a lot of free value. You're going to get a lot of information about how to use your wealth. How to use your mindset to create wealth, right? How to turn how to turn visions into visuals. That's essentially what we say in the Visionary Mindset Academy, right? So I want you guys to join that Discord. We also have my second Discord community, the Motivational Mondays, right? So every Monday, myself, and a lot of other entrepreneurs, right? We're gonna hop on a call every single Monday at noon. I believe it's Mountain Time, right? We're going to hop on a call every single Monday, and we are going to motivate each other. We are going to learn from each other. We're going to shoot out ideas, right? We're going to shoot out problems. And there's going to be a lot of other business owners that are going to be able to help us and navigate through it, right? Maybe there's somebody who's went through your tax situation, right? And they're in the group, right? We're going to talk about all of that, right? And we're going to keep each other accountable. We're going to keep each other motivated, right? And we're going to keep each other confident, right? So join that Discord, right? So you can get all the information all the time, all the timestamps, everything like that. All that's going to be below. So join this Discord. We're going to be talking a lot. We're going to be learning a lot, right? And I want you guys to stay tuned for next week, right? Stay tuned for next week. This whole month, we're going to be talking about holistic healing, holistic energy, right? We're going to be talking about how to utilize that in your everyday life, how to utilize that into your business, right? So I want you guys to stay tuned, right? And just, keep fucking with me, excuse my language, and I'm going to keep, coming back with that heat, right? So this concludes this week's episode of the Wealthy and Healthy podcast. I hope everybody has a great Sunday, and just keep learning, right? Keep learning, keep investing in yourself, right? And you will start to see progress. Right. So it is your host with the most, the Wealthy and Healthy podcast host, KD Capri, the mentor and the mentee. Right. And we're going to come back with another episode next week. Right. I'm going to see y'all soon.